Hey, welcome. You are on the lawn with John. All right, so we have a thing going here. This lawn, not in great shape. Piss poor. I'm gonna give you a little history and also kind of a little lesson, and then we are gonna go do a little shopping for some items and stop what is happening at this location. So, what you see behind me here is Kentucky bluegrass, okay? This is in an area that had no prep really done to it. There's no topsoil to speak of. It's this sort of native soil is just right what's under there. Now, over here, if you look kind of across here, you can see sort of odd shapes and patterns down inside here. Now, if you really start to get in and look, you'll start finding all kinds of little animal droppings. See, all through here. Now, this section in particular is being sort of the first to be destroyed by little furry rabbits who came in here and started to just eat and nibble and knock stuff back into this. Now what happens is when they park their little carcasses in here and chew, they sit and do their business right in here, and they pee and poop and they burn stuff out. It burns these little rings and they just follow it as it goes through, and there's a definable pattern as they sort of eat and take the crowns off and just kill stuff. They're just little jerks that way, okay? But I'm gonna talk about why they're here, and it just extends. They just kind of wander through here, just eating and pooping and peeing and just destroying, okay? And it's just weakening everything out because they're in here all the time. And as you can see, they've just sort of traced a pattern through here. It's just back and forth, going wherever the grass was sort of a little bit weak, okay? Now, again, this grass is still just barely coming out of dormancy, but you can tell that there are going to be problems, thin spots, especially as it starts to get hot and the heat really kicks on for summertime. So we want to get this under control now. Now, not the whole lawn doesn't look terrible like that. You can see it's a fairly defined pattern. It's very, very thick in places where the soil was done proper, and actually the grass is coming in really, really well. So here's the lesson and what to look for. Now, on this particular section, this lawn is unirrigated. It should be. It's not. So it's all hand watered. This part of the lawn has died completely. It's never been reseeded. It's only been brought back to life 2 times. It killed in the summertime and was just toast. Now, it also has not had any sort of fertilizer or nutrient supplementation on it since May of 2017. So it is also in somewhat of a starvation mode. So now that's what we're going to talk about. Why do infestations start? Rabbits were never a problem here when this lawn was looking good. You would think that if it was healthy and the grass was more nutritive, that you would have more things grazing in here. Now, deer would come in because they like that sort of high protein grass, but not rabbits. So started to die back. As soon as grass started to grow back in, the rabbits came in to eat those new fresh little crowns of grass that were growing. And they love that fresh little supple stuff. So they'll just track along and just destroy as you come through. So when we take a look at this, the grass was in a weakened state already. So that meant that there was space for some form of, if you want to call it, a predator or an infestation to come in and go to work on this particular section. So we have to look at it from a thing called the law of minimums, which is very, very important when you're assessing problems with your lawn. If you know the history of everything that's gone down, if you've been the one that's been in control of that, then you kind of have you have an upper hand in the battle to have a beautiful lawn. So basically the law of minimums is like this. The most abundant nutrient that's in the soil or that's available to the plant is only as usable as the least. So basically the weakest link in the chain is going to dictate what happens with the rest of your nutrient supplementation. So, you know, let's say if you had a soil test and you had high nitrogen, high phosphorus, high potassium, you had all these numbers, but your magnesium was ultra low or sulfur was ultra low or things like that, it would be a change in how the plant is being able to regulate that surplus of other materials. So you have to think about the history. When you're buying fertilizer, especially off the rack, as a homeowner, and you're applying just an NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium mix, you're not getting everything that you need. There's 16 essential elements. Now, the first few come from air and water, so you don't really have to worry about that. But in a bag of 3 items, you're gonna start running deficits on other nutrients. So it's important to put those other micronutrients back in the ground. So think about that when you're sort of looking at a lawn and trying to diagnose an issue. It's like, why is this not green? You know, it's getting the same food as everything else. Well, that particular soil may have a depletion in a minor nutrient, okay? So it's very important to look at that. Now, we're gonna just kind of look back across here. So you can sort of see this like uneven, the color's just a little bit messed up. And again, part of that's cool weather. Everything's just sort of waking up for the season, so it's kind of got a little bit of weakness to it. But the rest of this, wascoey wabbits. So, come with me. We are going to do this purely on a DIY, fun, kind of make your own rabbit deterrent, using some of the Greene County Fert products, plus some household items, plus a blender. So we're gonna go from John on the lawn to John in the kitchen as we blend up some stuff. But first things first, let's head to Home Depot and grab a hose end sprayer. Okay, so we are selecting our sprayer right now. 2 options here, the Home Depot, bang bang, those 2. Chameleon screws on a bunch of different bottles. Ortho, simple to use. Hose end, don't really have to do any adjustment. I'm gonna go with the Ortho, mainly because I don't do a lot of bottles of anything else. Very simple to use, dial, ounces per gallon, and you can just nail it, so there's the one. All right, so here's the deal. We're gonna do a little household mix-up. I'm gonna mix up, the area that's gonna be treated is probably about 500 square feet. It's really not a lot. So I am going to be using some water to kind of thin out what I'm about to do. And it's gonna be a little fun on how this whole thing works. So first things first, you know, don't worry, you can wash all this stuff out. It's not really gonna be a big deal. We're gonna use the old Vitamix here. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit of water in there, about probably half the mix, okay? I'm gonna do like 16 ounces of water. A little more than that, put that in there. A little splash extra, a little for me. Good. Okay, so we're gonna put like a little tiny bit. This is actually some RGS that I keep kind of on hand when I'm doing fun stuff. So I'm actually just gonna do like a little splash. I don't need much in there because I'm gonna be doing some humic in here. So we're just gonna do a couple little capfuls of this guy. It's not very much, okay? We got that down in there. Now, take a little bit of that too. Delicious. Now, we've got kelp. So we've got our RGS portion with the kelp in it. Now we're gonna go with a little bit of humic. I wanna get that in there too. So let's throw some of that down. And, you know, oh, wait, important piece, everybody. Let's make sure before you use anything, you know, it's always good to give it like a tiny little shake. It doesn't require much, just something. So we're gonna throw a few ounces of that in here. A little higher than normal, okay? Again, because we're going for soil corrective. Just gonna toss that in there. Let's do one more for good measure. This is gonna be about 3 ounces is all. It's not really a whole lot, but just enough to kind of get the whole thing going. And you can kind of see how we're coming together here. All right. Now, here comes the fun stuff. And we are going to require a spoon because that is going to be very important. Tablespoon. Here we go. I have some fresh ground ginger right here. Oh yeah. I'm gonna put a tablespoon of that in there. Looks good. Why use some when more is better? Now we got the fun stuff. Some cayenne pepper. Oh, those little guys, they don't like this stuff. How about a heaping spoonful of that? How about one more for good measure? Even better. What's next, he says? Well, we are not making Korean barbecue sauce, but for all the hipsters out there, let's throw a little sriracha in there too. Why not? Let's get a little squirt. Gonna get out. We're gonna bring the heat, okay? And then we're also gonna bring the sweet. And you might ask, why? Why do I want to do that? Well, first of all, there's a lot of calcium in blackstrap molasses, and these sugars are going to help kind of break down that dead grass that's in there. So we're gonna throw about ½ an ounce in there. It doesn't really take that much. Again, we're doing kind of a small area. So we have a beautiful concoction. It could be barbecue sauce, you know, maybe not. Maybe this should just stay on the lawn. I think that's probably a good idea. So let's fire this thing up. It's gonna get loud. So here we go. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, let's blend. Concoction is ready to go through a hose end sprayer. Okay, so I think we have everything we need here, and it's going to be perfect timing because there is a thunder shower that's coming that I think is going to help to sort of wash this stuff in, which would be great. Now, I showed you that Ortho dial-in spray. You know, I like the Ortho ones just from simplicity. They've been around for a long time. Like 12 bucks, you know, anybody can get it. Fan, stream, shower, setting, pretty simple. And then your rates per gallon, the way things will be flowing out of this. So we're gonna dial this thing like all the way up to the max, just because I want it to come out pretty fast. All right, so we'll see where that kind of ends up. 8 ounces, all right? So it should blow through this thing relatively quickly, again, because it's a small spot. Now, a couple things about these. They put a pretty fine filter on the bottom of this, and you know, if you noticed, I put a lot of stuff into the concoction right here. So we're just gonna have to see how well that flows through. Now, they changed the design of this a little bit. They didn't used to have this piece on here because now they have a weight on the bottom. It was just a stiff straw that kind of went to the bottom. So, you know, I may end up prying that thing out of there. I'm not a big fan of filters and things like this in general, but we're just gonna check the flow and see how it goes. So, 32 ounces right here. We've got roughly that here in this mix. So that's what we're gonna pull out, toss it here. Looks beautiful. Smells good too. I really think it actually would have worked out as a nice nice wing recipe, aside from that sort of humic point, unless you're a big fan of things tasting like clay and ash and dirt. I don't know, to each his own, I suppose. So in she goes, and I say let's go hose down this section and get that grass to grow back. Like, that's going to be the most important piece here, is I want this to fill back in before it gets hot, because it's really hard to recover a lawn when it gets hot. So I'm gonna nail this down, spray it out, and that's it. Complete. It's empty. Now it's just water. So we're just gonna kind of let that hose in there. Let it be what it is. Now, the beauty of this particular project is I won't be able to be back on this place for about 10 days, roughly. So 10 days from now, we'll do an update, see how everything's growing back in. And it should be looking actually a hell of a lot better just in that length of time, because if we can get the rabbits deterred, that's really a poor joke. We're gonna get this grass to grow in really quickly. So that's what we're gonna do. 10 days from now, we'll be looking at doing an update, and you'll see the changes just with that quick concoction, keeping the little bunnies out of here, and this grass is going to start to grow in really quick. So for this video, we'll see you in 10 days. I will be seeing you sooner than that. We're going to have some more fun stuff coming up here on the road in the next week and 2 weeks, with some visits I'll be making and checking out, maybe solving some more problems on the road. So stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching.